Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our weekly webinar. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes for the rest to join in and we'll get started.
Yep. Awesome. Good to see you again, Stephanie.
Good to see you as well, Spence.
How's
How are
your
you?
day
How's
going?
the day going?
Good. Good. What has been the most exciting thing about today so far?
The most exciting thing about today. Interesting. Let's see, I had a pretty active day so far, early productive day. Well, I'm in Dubai, so for me, it's almost the end of the day, late afternoon. So
Okay, got it. Yeah, it's earlier in the day here, but yeah, I'm might be going over I might be over your way in the near future. What are some of like your favorite things that you like doing over in Dubai? Like if you were planning a trip for me, what would be some of your favorite things that I could
if
do?
you are planning on coming here.
Yeah.
So Spence, I think you're asking the wrong person unless you are an adventure junkie like me. If you are,
Okay.
then I'll tell you, you have to go skydiving. You can do it all here. You can swim with sharks. You can skydive. You can go skiing inside a mall and then just wrap up and continue to the beach. So
Yeah.
there's a long list that I'd be happy to roll out for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sounds like fun. I've always seen Dubai on like the as like the top places to go and different things like that. But yeah, if we were just having a conversation, if you were logging in right now, tell us where you're from. Tell us where, if you could pick one destination to go to, where would be your next destination? Whether it's planning your event or where you want to go for a vacation, not planning an event and stuff like that. So we're going to wait a couple more minutes for people to log in. But yeah, message in the chat if you have any questions or if there's different things that you want discussed today. I guess, Stephanie, I'll hand it over to you as well to kind of talk about and give like a high level summary of, hey, what are the things that we are going to talk about today so that we can help people with their sponsors?
Absolutely. So Spence, the reason we chose this topic for this week's webinar is because it is a very hot topic for our clients. We understand that, especially when planning trade shows, conferences, sponsorship plays a very important role in planning out these events. And it has a huge impact on event organizers because it contributes highly to the revenue generation that they can get for the event itself. So we've decided in today's webinar to tackle mainly what are some of the main objectives that sponsors look for in their events, and what we can do to help event organizers like all of you guys attending today's call achieve these goals as well for your sponsors. Now,
sure.
I'm going to list a couple of top priorities that we see in terms of requests from sponsors, and we're all ears. So if you have any other requests that you get from sponsors, if you come across different inquiries, please let us know. But what we've seen as very popular is they highly care about brand exposure and brand visibility. What I mean by that is they want their brand to be featured, everywhere, highly visible on the app. We want to have logo placements, mentions of their brand, maybe a section highlighting their products, their services, all in the hope of creating awareness amongst the attendees. Second thing on that list is data and analytics. That's very important for them to understand and access the data to see, what's the attendee behavior looking like? What's areas of interest for these attendees? Third thing on the list is definitely lead generation and business opportunities. And let's face it, a lot of times sponsors participate in these events as a business opportunity. So what they look for in a platform that you all are using is, are you providing information where they can, again, showcase their branding and everything, but also do they have access to information that will help them capture leads? Do they have the ability to showcase their resources, book meetings within the app, and so on? The final thing is ROI, the end game. We're all in it to see what was the ROI from the event, what's the value that we received. So as event organizers, we want to make sure that you can provide these post-event reporting to your sponsors that will show them what was the value that they got from participating in your conference.
Yeah, That's all awesome. Yeah, I'm taking notes as we speak as well on different things as well. So if you have any questions in the chat, I will be monitoring the chat as well. So feel free to ask any questions as needed. But yeah, totally agree with you, Stephanie. I think there's a lot of nuggets that you talked about there that I'm excited to see what you have in store.
Sounds great. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen as a start and walk you through, before we dive into the app, the full journey for the event, basically. So we all know that any type of event you're planning for will start with you promoting that event, capturing registrations for that event, and then all of the communication aspect that goes into it up until we get into the live event day as well. So on that note, on the landing page that you are using to promote your event, and you're highlighting details like the date and time, the location, this is your starting point to start with that brand and awareness for the sponsors. So you can have a section within that landing page to highlight who are the different exhibitors, who are the different sponsors. You can even add links that once you click on probably takes me to these sponsors' websites, provide me with further information. And it's also important to add that a lot of times sponsorship come in different tiers as well. So it's not always the case where, sponsors, and here's the list. All of these are participating at the event. A lot of times it would be split up. You've got your platinum, you've got your silver, your gold. So you can highlight all of these within the landing page, and according to the tier that they belong to, increase or decrease the visibility that they are receiving. Second thing we can do, obviously, we want to receive information from the attendees that are planning to attend the event. That would be your registration. Now, how can you use this for sponsorship? When I register for an event, typically once I've concluded registration, I'd receive a thank you email. Maybe a couple of days later, a follow-up email, maybe reminders leading up to the event. So how you can use this to the favor of your sponsors is simply add their logos to that email as well, and say something at the end of it where you've highlighted the event details, the location, their QR code. Maybe at the bottom you can say special thanks to our sponsors 1, 2, and 3. These are some ideas in terms of leading up to the event date. Now that we're at the event itself, and I know in today's webinar, we're focusing on in-person. So because we're talking about in-person, I'm quickly going to walk you through our badge printing solution as well. We understand a lot of clients, require this service to streamline their badge printing, their checking in process. And while I'm not going to focus too much on what the solution is, and we can elaborate on that further, I want to highlight specifically how this can be used for sponsorship. The badge printing solution, in a nutshell, is that an attendee scans their QR code. Within a couple of seconds, it prints out their badge. How can this be used for sponsorship? Spence, I know you've been to a lot of these. So what kind of badges have you seen that clients have used to highlight their sponsors?
For sure. Yeah, I've seen a lot of different badges as far as sponsorships and different things like that. One of the things that I've seen a lot from the badges is that you can have your own branding there, but you can also have someone else's branding or some of your sponsors' branding there as well. And so that has been one of the easiest ways to create a money generating sponsor for someone, because what you're able to do is you're able to take something that was maybe a cost that you're going to have anyways, and you can immediately add value to it for someone else that can pay for those costs as well as add more money to your pocket.
Exactly. Perfect. So we've spoken about collecting the badge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the mobile app. We've had a previous weekly webinar where we've discussed a lot of the functionalities of the app. So I'm not going to focus too much on that. Let us know if you'd like to retrieve the information on the app functionalities. Today, just like we spoke about earlier, I'm going to focus how you can use this app specifically for sponsors to help you drive more revenue. So first thing first, I'm going to take our demo app, but as a side note, of course, this could be fully branded as well to your logos. And I'm going to sign into the app to start discussing the different functionalities. The first thing that actually pops up is the main thing that we see clients using for sponsorship, and that would be the splash ads. Splash ads are basically taking over your full screen, grabbing everyone's attention, and it's a very popular way of promoting sponsorship. It can have their logo in here. It can have information that, once you click on, it takes me to an external website, let's say, with their details. And not only is it branding, but also lead capture, because anyone that clicks on this, we will be able to go back to that sponsor and say, here's how well your ad was performing. This is the number of people that interacted with your product, with your, the ads that we've added. Total clicks, unique clicks with the raw data are all captured and given back to these sponsors.
Yeah. While we're on this subject, Stephanie, there's a question that's come in from the chat. One of the things that they're asking as well is like, what leads can be exported? Because at an in-person event, sure, I can capture leads as well if I exchange business cards with someone, but what are some of the other ways that I can capture that data like you were talking about, as well as export the different information that's available?
Absolutely. I'm going to walk you through that in just a minute. We're going to use our QR code functionality to exchange that contact information, as opposed to the traditional way of business cards that tend to get lost and there's no ability to take notes. So we'll streamline how that could be done with our technology and how these could be exported as well.
Awesome.
Perfect. Let's actually get to that. Just one thing before that, on the note of the splash ads, while we're talking about the ads in general. So aside from that option, we also do offer banner ads. So banner ads are what you're seeing at the bottom of the page here. And these could either rotate one after the other sequentially, or manually, I could skip through them and learn more about the different sponsors that you have. Once again, every click is captured and we'll be able to generate the analytics on all of these, on all of the engagements. Now, let's address the question that you got, Spencer, in the chat. It's by the way, a very important question, because it's basically a question about lead capture. How are they capturing these leads? And we mentioned earlier that there's a QR code functionality to it. This center here, what we're seeing, that's the QR capability that we're talking about. Everyone at the event has access to this. And the QR code gives us two functionalities: to scan someone's code and then to walk up to you, Spencer, and then show you my unique QR code on the phone or on the badge that I'm wearing. And this QR code basically has all of the information captured on registration. So for sponsors, if it's important for them to know what kind of products I'm typically interested in, or maybe geographic location, anything that is important to them could be captured on registration. And then once the QR codes are exchanged, they will have all of that attendee details with the user information.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One of the questions that I have, and maybe it's just for my clarification, is like, let's say someone didn't exactly share that, hey, I'm interested in this product, or they didn't talk with the sponsor, because I know that there's things that you're going to talk about later, of like after the conversation's already happened with a sponsor. But one of the questions that I personally have is like, if I can track the people who viewed a specific area of the event, would that help to generate more? Because I've seen a lot of companies talk about like intent data almost, where it provides a lot of added value. Is that something that we can do as well, as not only track how many people are at the event or submitted an inquiry, but also people who just viewed those as well?
Absolutely. Everything can be captured in terms of the people that actually registered for the event, expressed interest, but couldn't make it at the event, or they actually showed up at the event. And even if they did not interact with that sponsor, did they view their documents? Did they click on different resources that they've added? We can export all of that as well. There's very in-depth analytics that is all backed with the raw data. And the raw data is their contact information and all of the details you'll require to make the next step and prospect into these things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I could definitely see that being a useful tool for a lot of people who are having sponsorships as well, because their lead generation list, or the leads that they've exported, have gone from like maybe 50 people to like 150 or 250 people. So that's awesome.
Exactly. And this is the list, Spencer, where basically if I was a sponsor and I scanned you at the event, all of those leads are going to be appearing in my contacts tab. Now, probably I had maybe a more interesting conversation with one person more than the other. So that's where the favorites comes in place. So if you and I have discussed anything about next steps, or we had, a conversation on how we're going to move forward, I could retrieve your contact details immediately by searching through my favorites. And to answer your earlier question as well, all of these could be exported. You can export all of the leads, your favorites only. So all of that could be all of the takeaways, basically the data and analytics from the event. sponsors have access to them right away once the event is over.
Okay, awesome. There's another question that just came in the chat. Stephanie, I don't know if you have time for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the questions was, can you have meetings booked ahead of time for the sponsors to help them have a list of people ahead of time and have meetings booked before the event starts?
Yes, and that's a fairly popular request as well, because if we think about any one of us participating in these events, the main takeaway is how many clients, how many prospects did you get an opportunity to meet with, the ability to take notes and retrieve all of that conversation. So let me actually dive right into it. I'm going to get back to the other content over here, but first let's talk about locating the booth, learning more about the content they have within that booth, and booking meetings with them. To locate these sponsors, first off, you can make use of the event floor plan. Obviously, branding plays a very big role here. So if you want to add their logos, bigger booth designs as well for your key sponsors, that would be possible. Second thing is, before we dive into the booth itself, if we want to have like a hub that shows me, sorry, not the speaker, the sponsors, there we go, a sponsor hub that highlights all of these different tiers of sponsorship. So I could click on any one of these, learn more about who they are, what they do as a business before I walk up to them, before I start a conversation or book a meeting. This hub basically shows me all of that information about sponsors. And then once I make my way to that booth, let's say the scenario that you just mentioned, maybe it might be a bit crowded, I want to pre-book a meeting, or maybe this whole scenario is happening a day or two leading up to the conference, and I want to prepare my schedule of meetings. What I would do in that case is I would go into the sponsor hall, find the sponsor that I'm looking for. And then once I locate that sponsor, I can retrieve all of the information that they've added within their booth on the app. That information could be documents, it could be videos, it could be texts. And one of the features in that case would be booking a meeting with them in advance. It's quite interesting here. So there's different reps you can meet with. There's different time slots depending on their availability. And aside from this, there's even the option of choosing the meeting location. So if at the venue you've got different meeting rooms, we can even add that within this booking system. So ahead of time, I would know that I have a meeting with sponsor A in meeting room B, for example.
Okay. Now, one question following up on that is this available to any kind of sponsor, or can we have this as like a tiered package? So for example, let's say someone wants to have only gold sponsors that have that book a meeting feature. Is that possible, or do we have to allow it to anyone who's sponsoring the event?
No, absolutely not. So splash ads could be chosen to specifically your top tier sponsor. For the banner ads, you can add tier 1, tier 2 if you want. We've got a team as well in-house if you'd like our assistants to create these different packages. And depending on the tier, obviously the offering that we have within that bracket is going to determine based on the value add that we want to give these sponsors.
That's
so
awesome.
For instance, probably the ones that are on the lower tiers would be within a sponsor hall mixed up with everyone else. But maybe your platinum sponsor can have a separate tile at the event, on the event app itself. So once I click on it, it's a shortcut that takes me to their booth directly. So lots of branding opportunities here. Everything is customizable on the booth. And any of these rooms, any of these tiles could be customized to your top tier or your platinum sponsors. Another thing on that note that you can use in your favor when creating these packages could also be push notifications. Now, while these are typically used for event announcements or changes in an agenda or something upcoming, you can use it for sponsors by pushing people to their booth. Or if they're selling products or services, let's say, you can say, within a specific, we've seen clients use it that within a specific bracket, they were having like a sale. So push notifications to drive more traffic to that sponsor, and you can use the push notification feature for that. Another thing is, aside from exhibiting at the event, a lot of times these sponsors have, a couple of minutes on the main stage so that they can address a large number of people. That's something as well that you can charge for as event organizers. So part of the packages you're offering could include a prime webinar slot, let's say. So in the agenda, we could see some of the top spots, some of the, probably at the peak times of your event where there's the highest engagement from the attendees. You can give them a specific session and have it interactive with all of the features we offer, like polling, they could be surveys, there could be Q&A, and it's a great opportunity for them to showcase their products, to showcase the value as well for end users.
Yeah, I've seen that used a lot in the events that I've helped people host, as well as like, hey, if you're hosting a session or if you're sponsoring a different session, I guess one of the questions that I have, Stephanie, is like, okay, let's say, for example, I was selling a specific product and I just had a session about that product. Is there a way for the people to be able to view the products that I have directly from the mobile app or directly anywhere in the event?
Absolutely. It could either be linked on the booth itself. Within a sponsor booth, we can add the products. Otherwise, we've got a shortcut at the bottom as well. Let me open that up. So we've got 3 components for that. We've got products, we've got my cart, and order history. This is a mix of everyone showcasing different products, and then you could filter through that. So you could see this sponsor, for example, is selling my favorite chocolate. So I could learn more about what the offering is, what the inventory on that is. I could bookmark it for future reference, and then I can add it to my cart. Once it's added into my cart, we'll go into the second option here and find every single order we've added in here from different sponsors. And once I click on order now, that sponsor will be notified that Stephanie has placed, this order successfully, and I can retrieve all of my orders within the order history tile over here. This is very popular with trade shows. And I know that one of our upcoming webinars is going to address this. So if any of you are planning on having a trade show with that, business component between the attendees and the vendors, we are going to have an upcoming webinar as well to highlight all of these components.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one.
Perfect. Now I'll conclude with one of my favorite parts of the demo, which is how can we use gamification for sponsorship? And we tend to see, at least I'll speak on my side, Spence, but I tend to see a lot of clients, they look for more engagement in these events. So engagement is usually a key thing. So combining that with sponsorship gives them a very high ROI. And I'd love your thoughts as well, if this is something you typically come across before we dive into what's possible with these features.
Yeah, well, I think gamifications for an event manager can be, hey, how can I incentivize people to visit different areas of the event that I want them to visit? I think with gamification, there's a million different things that we can talk about, and you're going to do an awesome job talking about all of those things as well. But for an event manager, it's like, hey, these are also things that cost you $0 that you can sell sponsorship packages for $500, $1,000 for these specific areas, because it drives a ton of revenue to those booths or to those sponsors. It drives a lot of traffic there, and increases your value for those sponsorship packages by a ton.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first on that list is the leaderboard. The leaderboard is basically a point system. Let's talk about it on an event level. The idea behind this gamification is you want to give different points to your attendees depending on areas of their participation. The more they're engaged, the more points they earn, and then the higher the probability of them winning prizes. That could be sponsored prizes as well from these sponsors. Now, how can you use this in their favor? Let's take a look at the point system. The point system is going to be completely up to the event organizers. Depending on your priority list, that's where we're going to boost the number of points that we're giving the attendees. So let's say you've got 3 different tiers of sponsors and they're all participating at the event as stands. What we can do is if you visit company A, for example, you get 1,000 points because they're your top sponsor. If you visit company B, you might get 500 points, and company C would get maybe 200 points. So the more we're adding an incentive for attendees to go to these stands, the more they're going to do it. We all love winning prizes at the end. And the more there's an added value for sponsors because they're getting exactly what they want: higher traffic, more attendee engagement, more lead capture. And this is one very popular way that clients use to boost their sponsorship. Up on the list next is our QR code scavenger hunt, our QR-based scavenger hunt. Now, again, the idea behind this is your attendees are on a hunt for different clues at the event. What these clues are, where they are, is completely up to you. So you're basically hiding objects, and these objects would have a QR code on them. I scan it, it would just mark that I've completed that task, and I earn points as well. Linking it with sponsorship, we can say, finding something during a sponsor's key session. on their specific booth. So we could link it back to them to make sure the engagement there is fairly high as well. Next up, we've got a photo booth. Everyone loves taking selfies. Everyone loves taking boomerangs. Now, what's going to be in your favor in this case is that these pictures that the attendees are, taking and posting within the photo gallery will be fully branded as well. So in terms of the space, the border or the frame for these images could be fully branded as well for sponsors. And again, it could be one main sponsor that you are highlighting on the photo gallery in case you want to have that differentiation as well in terms of the visibility and branding that they're getting.
Yeah, it also looks like that you can have this as a contest as well, right?
It could be a contest. Now, I've seen clients using it as a contest in two different ways. One of them I remember was fairly creative. They said the picture with the most creative or the most unique picture could earn a prize. Second, clients, what they do, and it's more popular, the amount of likes. So the pictures with the highest amount of likes could earn prizes. And then what they can do is basically just sort it out from highest to lowest. And the one with the highest likes, again, could earn any different prizes that could also be sponsored by these companies.
Cool. So it looks like on that one, Hanan probably just won $1,000 or $100 gift card, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad.
Just for shaking his head. Look at that.
Yep. Perfect. So there is much, much more that we could discuss and elaborate further on sponsorship opportunities. We do hope that this was a great starting point as well, and it was informative on what we can do, where we can start to create these packages. Like we mentioned earlier, we've done this with thousands of events. We've got a team of experts that I can have these conversations with you and create these different tiers and add the different benefits that your sponsors would receive within each tier. You can price these out however you want. You know your market better. You know your attendees better. We've seen it all. We've seen the couple of hundred and we've seen a couple of thousand to higher thousands as well. So it's all achievable and we'd be more than happy to help out because just like I started off the demo, I'll conclude it on that as well, that we know what a big impact this could have on you in terms of the source of revenue generation. And we'd love to help you achieve that with, for your upcoming events.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I know that you have to hop off, but this will conclude the weekly webinar for this week. Stay tuned next week at the same time, so Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will talk about, I believe trade shows is next, correct? Awesome. Looking forward to it, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.